The other day, Rishi Sunak did a very small reshuffle of the cabinet of his main team. Although he could have done more, he was extremely safe. What does this show about the Conservative Party?
I think it shows that at the end of the day, he doesn't want to rock the boat internally. He's got enough external problems without having any further division within the party. Grant Shapps is seen as having very much a safe pair of hands. He's a good communicator. He's held many positions, and he's been regarded as generally.
Do you think he's right for foreign minister?
I'll come back to that. Generally regarded as competent, and I think that it's about not rocking the boat. It's about not creating internal division. It's about as minimal change internally as possible. There's been enough civil war in the Conservative Party. He's already holding a very difficult line. The membership doesn't want him. The right of the party doesn't like him. His poll ratings, by the way, over the summer have dipped. They've not improved. So Rishi Sunak was meant to be a guy who was going to close the gap with Labour. Actually, that's not proven to be the case thus far. So he's in a very what it shows you is he's in a very weak position in terms of his room for manoeuvre. He's lost a very able, extremely well thought of Defence Secretary. I mean, I think across the political spectrum, Ben Wallace was highly respected. I think globally he was highly respected in that role as well. So, although Stephen maybe is casting aspersions on Grant's abilities, I think what Grant Shapps has shown that with all the ministerial roles he's taken on, he's been very quickly able to get a grip on.
This is quite funny. Like you're talking about a Conservative minister like that, and you're defending him.
Well, I'm saying he's earned a reputation for competence, and I know from a Conservative Party point of view, he's perceived as a good communicator. That all those things are true, okay. But what it shows is the inherent weakness of Rishi Sunak. To have such a minimal reshuffle, to simply put a loyalist in place in that role, right, and be scared of creating upheaval, he's in a very weak position. And the Conservative Party generally is in a very difficult divided state. The lid has been put on that to some extent. They know any serious internecine public civil war right now would finish them off. That would be it, game over, yeah? And anybody who's launched that sort of thing would be deeply unpopular. Equally, do they want this guy, most of them, to be the leader? The membership doesn't want him, the party doesn't want him, and I'll tell you something else, he's showing slowly that he isn't much of an electoral asset. Now, what he's banking on with Jeremy Hunt is that there is going to be a significant improvement in inflation and the economy in the run-up to the election. That's what they're banking on. And when people come near that election, that they'll be able to say somehow, look what the advances, improvements that they've made. I think they're very naive, because they think they won't be associated with the civil war of the past 2 years, with the mistakes that Liz Truss and others made during that period. But that's what they hope is going to happen. So it demonstrates weakness and disunity, and the need just to keep a lid on things internally.
Would you agree with everything I haven't said?
No, not quite. I mean, that's a perception that comes from certain parts of society, so I can understand why Ivan's saying that. Let's have a look at the situation. Rishi's made some promises, and it's imperative that he has unity within the party.
Yeah.
And it's a time where he really needs to surround himself with his supporters and people that can do a job for him. So, because, like you say, the party can't afford another civil war. And although, I mean, I hear members now saying, oh, well, we need to come together and we don't need all this lot. But they were quite happy for the civil war in the first place to get rid of Boris. But now we've got Rishi, they don't want any of that, and we need to be united and go forward. But at the end of the day, it's about the right thing for the country. We need to leave the infighting and the bickering and all that to Labour, because traditionally that's what Labour do. We need to be getting back to what we are all about as Conservatives, and running the country to the best of our abilities, and trying to make, trying to put things right for all what we've suffered in the last few years, which is not the Tories' fault, really. The COVID's not the Tories' fault.
So you don't think any of it was really any of the big...
Oh, well, I'm not saying that they've done everything right. No, there's... Well, no one knew what to do with COVID, really. Everyone was looking across Europe at other ways and other things. It just so happens we backed a certain pharmaceutical company to roll out a vaccine. Europe had a very different view on that, and we came out trumps on it, really, with the way that happened.
Your leader broke the rules, you said.
Well, that's a different story altogether. That leader's no longer with us, and now we've got a Prime Minister called Rishi Sunak. So, but the thing with Grant Shapps, if we're looking at Grant Shapps, he's a safe pair of hands, I agree. The thing is people have raised questions, is he right to be the Defence Secretary? And I couldn't say yes, and I'm not saying no. Give the guy a chance, he might turn out to be very good for it, but it was a surprise, and some of us raised our eyebrows.
Who else would it have been?
Well, I don't know. I'm not privy to
because
know.
he seems like you said, quite a popular person who's quite safe. It's a safe choice.
But what I talk, Ben Wallace,
though, with the Tories, I mean,
yeah,
and he's a safe pair of hands.
Yeah. But with Ben Wallace, though, I feel he felt a bit dejected for not getting the job he wanted to get. The Americans didn't back him up, and I think he's been very disillusioned with politics. I think the writing was on the wall when he didn't go for leadership in early days, because if he'd have gone for the leadership, from people I've spoke to,
probably would have won. Yeah.
He would have won. And he would have been the Prime Minister now. We wouldn't have had the blip with Liz Truss. And the problem with having Liz Truss as the Prime Minister at the time, the membership voted for Liz Truss because they didn't want Rishi. But the Parliament, or the Parliamentary Party, thought, well, if we have Rishi there and we have someone else, they're going to see that Rishi's the best for the job. I mean, and really, at the end of the day, you knew that Rishi was the better person for the job. It was just the way the Parliamentary Party treated the members. And the members, backfired on them. But it didn't help the country by that happening. And so they had to intervene. And
I think you have a coming together of different factors. Well, in the end, Boris's big weakness was his inability to tell the truth in certain circumstances.
Well,
and that
you're not a Boris fan, we know that.
And that was magnified.
Yeah.
That was magnified, and that caused the public to start having concerns and doubts about the Conservative government. Then they entered this period of civil war, where they focused on internal issues, fighting amongst themselves, killing each other, not focusing on the issues that face the country.
Well, the problem
was a time of great difficulty. For
that selection process was ridiculous.
And so that self-indulgence really made the public very angry. Then we had the Liz Truss disastrous 6 weeks, where for the first time people actually felt they could blame the Tories for some of the economic downturn and consequences that she wrought on the country. Previously, the public were very fair. They said COVID, Ukraine. Can we really blame the government for those things?
Well, the press gave him a big leg up on that.
So essentially, Liz Truss, in her short period, did tremendous damage to market confidence and therefore the economy, therefore people's mortgages. So the Conservative Party can no longer say nothing to do with us, Gov. It was all about Ukraine and COVID. So it's all of those factors coming together. But the biggest single thing is this sense of arrogance, this sense of conceit. We have a right to power. It doesn't matter if we fight amongst ourselves. It doesn't matter if we focus on each other, because that lot are never going to be elected, i.e. the Labour Party. And the public said, hold on a minute.
Well,
you're not treating us like fools. You're not treating us like fools. You're not fit to govern. And alongside that, whatever people say about Keir Starmer, he has done a really good job on the whole in getting rid of anti-Semitism in the party. There's still some work to be done, but he's done a good job on that. He's more or less obliterated the Corbynites from the party, which was much needed, not just for the party, but
do you really believe that,
for the country. I do believe that they have no influence whatsoever in the party. Absolutely, 100% believe that. Yeah,
Angela Rayner's still there.
I do. She was never a Corbynite. Angela Rayner, when Corbyn went, the Corbynites' choice for leader was Rebecca Long-Bailey, most definitely not Angela Rayner. So don't mistake somebody's on the left of the party with being a Corbynite. The two things are not the same. And also, Angela Rayner was very brave on Brexit within the party. Post the referendum result, Angela Rayner actually said, we've got to respect that result. She did not go along with those who said the opposite. So it's wrong to characterise her in that way. What did Angela Rayner a lot of damage was what she said about Tory scum in that late night Labour Party meeting, which I didn't approve of. Right?
Well, she did it. She called it. It was Chris Clarkson.
Right.
When he was talking, she said,
and
that was the first time.
And to be clear, I don't approve of that kind of language about your political opponents, and that is what has branded Angela in the way that Stephen just branded her. That she isn't some loony Corbynite. Actually, I know that from internal debates within the party. Yes, she's on the left, but she certainly wasn't supportive of the Corbynites. So on the whole, Keir Starmer's done a good job of cleansing the Labour Party in only 4 years of people who were not fit to govern this country. Okay, let's be clear. Not just about they destroyed the Labour Party, we're not fit to govern this country. So alongside the Tories imploding, he has, if you like, people's fear of a Labour government has gone. People are not scared, on the whole, of a prospect of a Labour government. The challenge now for Keir Starmer and the Labour team is to inspire people with a sense of hope about the future of the country. So having detoxified a very negative brand, having removed a lot of the fear and anxiety people had about the prospect of a Labour government, what is next part of the challenge for the Labour Party and the new team that I believe he's going to be developing over the next I believe is going to have a reshuffle relatively soon, is to actually inspire a sense of hope. Because the truth is, the biggest single problem in this country, there are two problems. The scale of the challenges facing this country in the context of what's going on in the world are extremely serious, very grave. But alongside that, you have unprecedented despondency and a lack of hope amongst the British people. They really do think we're a failing country, we're a crumbling country, we're managing decline, there is no hope and optimism, and that is Labour's challenge in the run-up to the next election. To give people a sense that if you vote Labour, if you vote for change, you're going to have a more optimistic and hopeful future.
Do you think that people are scared of Labour?
I don't think we can say everyone's got short memories, considering the state that the Labour's got the country into every time they govern. So I'm not so despondent in that way, and I've got a bit more hope that people will do the right thing and vote a Conservative government back in.
Okay, Steve, so let me, we're not disagreeing on almost anything tonight.
Okay, but there's
so when we left office in 2010, record low NHS waiting lists, record low levels of crime, record levels of investment.
What was that note they left
the
us?
Education system.
Sorry, there's no money left.
And also, if there's any suggestion of the global crash that happened in 2007-8 was the responsibility of Gordon Brown, the Labour government, when it started on Wall Street in America. Everybody knows the subprime mortgage problem started in America. To blame the Labour government for that is completely unfair. And Stephen's a fair man. He's not really trying to blame the Labour government for that.
What are you saying?
Well, I'm saying that every time Labour get into power, they bring the country to its knees financially.
That's not true. That's a myth.
Well, that's my perception.
That's a myth.
Well,
and you see, I will say as a Labour person, every time Labour comes into power, they're inheriting a terrible mess. They're the Conservatives.
No, we're both going to say that against
in 97, when we were elected, the NHS, the education system, public services.
No, they won the election on the lies of the NHS.
Third World War. We're third world. They've been allowed to crumble, right? So
I think this is, like you said, this is a place where you are going to disagree.
Yeah. But I do think what I would say is that the Conservative Party's biggest single problem is that they were perceived, two things. They were perceived as focusing on themselves, not on the country, right? And secondly, that Liz Truss contributed to the economic crisis. It was no longer just about factors outside of the government's control. And alongside that, do I think most, not all people, but the vast majority of people who would consider voting Labour, not arch Tories who are never going to vote Labour, are they scared at the prospect of a Keir Starmer government? No, they're not. He's managed to detoxify a lot of the problems associated with the Corbyn era.